White Thompson, and she's going to give her name and date of birth.
Eva White Thompson, July 3rd, 1920.
Miss Eva, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about your family life when you were growing up and Kent Island. And I guess where I'd like to start is if you can tell me perhaps who your parents and grandparents were.
Randolph Kelly and Rowena Kelly
Mm-hmm.
were my mother's parents. Mary Ellen Hook was my father's mother. Thomas Hook was his father.
Were they Kent Islanders as well?
They moved here from Baltimore.
From Baltimore?
Yes, they both worked at Pimlico. That's where they met. My grandmother was a waitress there, and my grandfather was a horse trainer. And the gentleman who used to own, a farm down, well, his name was Mr. Ruth.
Mm-hmm.
He owned the farm, and he hired my grandfather to come down and train his horses.
Wow.
And that's when they moved to Kent Island.
About approximately when was that?
Well, my father was, I think Daddy was about 5 years old. And, of course, Uncle Jim, all of them were older than he. So I don't know, to be honest with you, the year I could have had it for you.
Right, that's okay. And then your mom and dad?
And my mother was Minnie Kelly Chance, and my father was Howard Daniel Chance.
And how did they meet?
Excuse me?
How did your parents meet? Do you know anything?
Honestly, I don't know.
Right.
Probably in Kingsley Church, because they all went to Kingsley Church.
All went to church together.
Mm-hmm.
What are your earliest memories here on Kent Island when you were a little girl?
My goodness. Well, being down to my grandmother's, we went to Grandmother Kelly's every Sunday for dinner. And the children always had to wait for the second table. And my grandfather always saved me a chicken leg, because I loved chicken leg. And the other grandchildren sometimes were very unhappy, because I always got the chicken leg. And I remember that.
Isn't that funny?
Yes, it was. I've laughed over it many times myself. I, of course, went to Chester School. And
did you have brothers and sisters?
No.
No.
I was the only child.
So the other kids were all cousins?
Yes.
That were jealous of you getting the chicken leg.
I hope they never hear this, because they may not like that. But it is the truth. You got me thinking now. I had a wonderful childhood. I really did. It was just the three of us, and we lived in a little house. I was born at my grandmother's house, Grandmother Kelly's house, and then Daddy bought a house up in Chester, right from Mr. Earl Long. It's still there.
Wow.
The little house is, and we lived there. And we just had a kitchen and a back porch, and had the porch. We had a pump, which was wonderful. We had the water almost in the house. You didn't have to go out to the well.
Right. That was fancy.
Yeah. You know, I just. We played a lot. I played. Eleanor and Sis lived next door to me. Walters, Mr. John Walters' children, and they were much younger than me. So we always played school, and I was always the teacher.
Because you were a little older than the others.
I was always the teacher, and we had a lot of laughs about that since we've grown up.
Right.
They're both gone now, bless their hearts. We had strawberry festivals at Kingsley Church. Seemed like the whole life revolved around the church.
The church was very important to your family.
Yes, it was. And it was to everybody back then. And when I became 10 years old, I took piano lessons from Miss Annie Benton. And I took one about 9 months. That's all the piano lessons I had, but I never stopped playing. I played every day, just about all my life. And so when I became 15, I was church organist. Miss Sam Brown got sick, and I played the piano and the organ down.
That was quite an honor for a 15-year-old.
Yeah, well, it scared you to death. And it was so exciting when we had the revival services because they were a little bit scary.
Right.
I can see them now, Mr. John Legg, Mr. Elmer Jones, my grandfather, Mr. Kelly, and Mr. Al Jones, going up and down the aisles praying and singing. And that's the truth. So
was it scary as a child because it was just so different?
Yeah, because it was so loud.
Loud and intense.
And they really meant it. You know, they really meant it. And when let me see, that's not. What did you want? Anything? I don't know. I'm trying to think about the childhood. Well, one thing about the childhood, we had all dirt roads. So every Saturday, Mother didn't open the front room only on weekends, and every Saturday and Sunday, I had to dust both rooms at least 3 times. Every time a car went by, you had to go dust again. And that's the truth.
Luckily, there wasn't as much traffic, probably.
Dear Lord, I never would have got this.
Now, at that time, were there many cars around, or
no, not many.
Still horse and buggy?
He got his. He had a little Ford, like a little 2-seater. And we went. I'll never forget the first. We went to Centerville, and Mother was driving, and Miss Agnes carried Doris. And we were both little teeny people then. And we went to Centerville. And that was another thing. In those days, we didn't have the big stores. So every Saturday, you went to Centerville to do the main shopping.
To do your shopping.
And then if you wanted and could afford it, you went to movies.
In Centerville?
Because that was the only movie.
So that was a big night out.
Oh, my goodness, yes. And lots of times when we came home, there would be little cars in the ditches all the way around the Kettners.
Is that right?
Yes. And usually it was always at least 3 and sometimes 4. And I don't know, they used to say they were partying, but I don't know that.
But that was kind of fancy then. I mean, the cars, there weren't that many of them, so when you got one, it was a big deal.
Yeah, and to have 3 of them in the ditch when you come home from Centerville, it was kind of scary. Oh, my.
So at that time, like you said, the church was very important to the family.
Yeah, and every Sunday, when at that time they were in the afternoon, the services were, and when the service was out, everybody just about walked down to the railroad station to see the train come in from Ocean City, and the people would all wave to us, and it was very exciting.
Oh, I bet that was.
And I was little, and the lane at that time was beautiful. I can't think of the name of the red blossom plant that was all the way down the lane on both sides. I can't think of the name of it.
And it would just bloom?
Yeah, it was just beautiful. And everybody, not everybody, but most everybody walked down there to see the train.
Isn't that neat?
And Mr. Bell would always wave to us. And that was a big Sunday afternoon outing. And then most times we went home, had a little supper. Everybody went back to church that night.
Sunday evening for evening services. I guess as far as holidays, Christmas was probably a big holiday.
Oh, my goodness, yes. Oh, my, you never saw such baking. The cakes. My mother had like a tub-like pan, and she would bake like weeks before Christmas. And all the ladies did. and all kinds. I remember caramel. Oh, I loved the caramel.
Oh, I bet. and that's kind of a lost art, a lot of that stuff.
Oh, yeah. Everything now mostly is bought. Some people still do a lot of baking. I did when I was younger, but I don't do any baking anymore. But I did do it.
So Christmas time, were people visiting
parties.
and parties?
Oh my goodness, yes. We had such a good time. Homemade root beer. And we really did party time. And in the spring, we also did. And when the men went to New Jersey to work in the summer, we would all meet at one house where they would leave from, and then when they were coming back, like in 2 weeks, all the wives and children would go to the same house, and we'd all meet there when they came back from New Jersey.
What kind of work did they do up there?
It's something to do with the water, but I don't remember what.
And so they'd all go up there and work for a couple weeks.
Yeah,
Come home.
And then they go back and work again. They worked up there a lot through the summer.
Wow.
But I don't remember doing
what they did.
Isn't that terrible?
No, not at all.
Honey, I just don't.
And then summertime.
Crabbing.
Crabbing. You remember crabbing? That's a big part of your summers.
Oh, yes, indeed. I used to go with Daddy. And I'll never forget, he always, packed lunch. Mother would pack lunches for both of us. And one time, when we first started going, I ate both lunches. And Daddy, when he went in to get his, it was gone. And so he told Mother, he said, Minnie, you got to pack a lot more lunch than he was going with me.
You're a hungry little girl.
Yeah, out on that water.
That's hard work.
Oh, yeah, I just loved it.
Did you?
Oh, yeah.
Was that your favorite activity with your dad? One of your favorite activities?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Going out in the boat with him. Yes, indeed.
So he was a waterman?
Oh, yes.
Your dad was a waterman?
Mm-hmm. And a good one. He wasn't big as a biscuit. He was just a little man.
Is that right?
Yeah, and he oystered.
Hand tonging. And
yeah. I forget what they said he had. He had a lot of, I can't remember what it was.
I'm often surprised at the size of some of those guys who handled those tongs and all that equipment. Big muscles.
He wasn't much bigger than me. That's the truth. A little bit. Might have been a little. I guess he was taller than
me.
But he was not a big man. And my mother, she could do anything. Oh, what a seamstress. She dressed me. My clothes were lovely.
And she
handmade everything I wore.
Wow.
And a lot of, even back when I got in high school, because soon we got catalogs, but in the early times we didn't have catalogs when I was real little.
Sure. And there was no stores that you could go to.
What stores there were, the floating theater used to come. The floating theater, one floating theater came with shows and entertainment. And then another floating theater came, and it had material, and that's where my mother bought material and sewing items and made me dresses from that.
I had never heard that they sold. Did they sell other things on those?
Not the same one. It was a different.
It was a different boat.
Yeah, and it tied up down Stevensville Bridge. So, yeah.
And they would they sell other things other than?
It just seemed like just things that you could make all kinds of clothes out of.
With.
You could make men's pants and ladies' dresses. It was mostly wearing apparel.
So that was exciting.
Oh my goodness!
You and your mom
got to pick out some colors. Oh my goodness! And it had they had rickrack. Well, we had never seen rickrack, and to put that on a dress.
What is rickrack?
They were gorgeous. It was a trimming, a little kind of trimming.
Oh.
It was up and down like that.
Fancy stuff.
Yeah.
And then the other boat was entertainment.
Yeah.
Put on shows and stuff. And do you remember going on to those?
Oh my goodness, yes. Oh, every time they came with the show, Mother and Daddy knew they had to take me.
How often did it seem like they came?
Not often. Mostly summer.
Mostly summer.
Maybe once in the fall. I can't remember, but it wasn't that often. And see, one of them came out of Chestertown. I can't remember the name.
I think I've seen something referring to that
Yeah.
one in Chestertown. I don't know the name.
I can't remember.
But they would put on musical shows and that kind of thing?
Yeah, it's actual theater.
Theater?
They, they dressed beautifully, you know, in the old-time clothes and stuff. And the lady, they could sing. Oh, it was beautiful.
Now, was this when you were a little girl, or?
I was real little.
Real little then.
Like 6 or 7.
And so that they stopped soon after that.
I can't remember when they stopped, but I know they had to because the daddy would still been taking me.
Right.
He loved music from the time I was born.
So music was a big part of your life, even as a
yes.
little girl.
Yeah. My mother could play a harmonica.
Really?
Yes, she could. And she would teach me to sing. You know, she'd play and teach me to sing. Oh my God, when they got me a piano, it was an old upright. And I guess I was about 9 when they got it. And then there wasn't anybody teaching. So we found out Miss Annie Benton could play.
Mm-hmm.
So she told Mother she would teach me what she knew. And all I ever had was a hymn book and a 5-cent notebook.
Wow.
That she wrote in. But she was so patient and just so kind, and I just loved it. So that's how I learned to play.
Learned to play, and been playing all your life since then. Do you play any other instruments?
No.
No. Do you sing?
Well, I could when I was young.
Right.
I can't.
Your mom sang?
Oh, she had a beautiful alto voice and a straight voice, you know. Yeah, she did have a good voice.
So mostly it was spiritual and religious music that you folks enjoyed?
Oh, yeah. Some, like old Susanna, things like that.
Popular music of the day.
Yeah.
You mentioned, or we kind of touched on school a little bit. Who were some of your school teachers and friends from school, or things that you remember about school?
Oh my gosh. Well, of course, Miss Catherine Jones was one of my teachers, and Evelyn Jones.
Were they related?
No, I think they were married to cousins.
Ah.
And Mary Larimore is one I remember so very much. She was an excellent...
Was that here in Stevensville School?
No, Mary Larimore was at Stevensville, but the other two were down Chester.
Chester School. So, did you go to Chester School first?
Oh, yeah.
And then up to Stevensville School?
Yeah, we were all transferred to Stevensville by 5th grade.
How did you get to school? Was there a school bus?
At that time, they finally, by the 5th grade.
By the time you went...
But we never had one before that. You know, we walked to school up to the corner.
And then once they transferred you, you had a school bus to take you. And that was 5th grade?
Yes.
And did you go through high school there?
No, we went to high school. Well, it was the first new high school.
What year did you graduate?
37.
When we were looking at your computer, I saw you had some of your classmates' names there.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember how many people were in your class? Was it
I think it was 19 or 20. I'm trying to think. We had just those 3 boys. Harry Dadds and Jimmy Marks and John Palmer were the boys. And then it was Clara Davison, or Clara Brine, Edna Cockey, Evelyn Quimby, Lois Cockey, Anita Sword, Doris Palmer, Isabel Porter, Eva Thompson. That's 8 of us. I can't. Isn't that terrible? Nellie Johnson, well, she moved away from here, but she did graduate with us. Nellie Johnson. Oh, isn't that terrible? I said Anita Sword, didn't I?
Yes, ma'am. That's pretty good that you can remember that many, I would think, of your classmates.
Yeah, we really had a great class.
I'm finding as I talk to people that a lot of the young men didn't graduate because by the time they were old enough to work on the farm or go to work.
In our class we had, well, Charles Hoxter, he truthfully failed out. And Jack Gardner was in our class, but he failed 8th grade and then went on to graduate the year after. He graduated in 38. And some of them did that.
Right.
And back in those days, if you passed 8th grade, that was a real mark. Because I never will forget. Oh, Charlotte Spry was in my class too.
You hadn't mentioned her.
Yeah, preacher's daughter.
Yeah, that came to you.
The reason I just remembered her that quick because our prize for passing 8th grade, her parents gave her a permanent and mine gave me a permanent. And we had to go to Annapolis to get the permanent. And let me tell you, when we came back on the ferry boat, we got on the wrong ferry boat and went to Claiborne. Let me tell you, we were scared to death. We were scared. See, they said they ran every hour, and they didn't tell us at 1 hour. That one went to Claiborne, and the next one would go
to Cat Island.
You can't imagine 2 little 8th grade girls on the ship going the wrong way.
With their hair curled.
Yeah. Oh, we were pretty. Oh my gosh.
They're pretty, but going the wrong way.
Yeah, and scared, I'm telling you.
Were you really?
Yeah, you're darn right.
Now, so then when it came, you got on and came on home, I bet your parents were worried where you were.
No, we had to go to Claiborne.
Oh, of course.
We had to go all the way there. Well, listen, the exciting part, too, was the captain had us have supper with him. So we had supper with the captain of the ferry boat. And it was so funny. There was a minister and his wife on the boat, or it was a ship to us, going to Claiborne. So he told the captain he would take us up to Easton, and they'd call my father or her father to come get us. So that's what they did. So they took us to Claiborne, and he took us to Easton, and then Daddy came to Easton and picked us up.
He drove to Easton? To come get you. Poor little 8th graders on the wrong boat.
And both of us we weren't big as biscuits. And I'm not kidding you. We were a little bit scared.
I bet. It
was a big boat, a big water.
And you were way down there. So 8th grade really was a milestone.
Yes, it absolutely
for children.
was. Yeah.
You were almost ready to go into the world.
That's right. I'll tell you. Come on, world.
I'm an 8th grader. Particularly for boys, I imagine.
Well, that's so many of them. That's when they quit school.
After 8th grade. They made it to 8th grade.
It really was, like you said, a milestone.
Now, as you got older and were a teenager, what was there to do for recreation? What did you all get into as teenagers?
I jotted some. Well, of course, you know, we played ball a lot.
Baseball?
Yeah, but I can't remember what they called it. They didn't call it baseball, but well, anyhow, we did play ball. But we had a lot of strawberry festivals and
What did they do at those? At the strawberry festivals, parades or?
Sometimes we danced, Ring Around the Rosie, and things like that. We did our own kind of dancing, you know.
Creative stuff.
Yeah, and that's the truth. We really did. I'm trying to think. Oh, and another big thing was in the summer. This is when I was younger. We would so many of the boarders would load up, and we'd go to Parsons Island to pick the peaches.
Wow.
And when we came home, of course, we were little. We would eat them, and then mothers would put them up. And shine the jars and all. But that was a big thing. We really did go over there in the boats and pick peaches. It was like the whole island was nearly full of peach trees.
So that was a big day?
Yeah.
For
Usually
you?
went on Sundays. Saturdays were Sundays. I guess Saturdays, I don't know.
Other families, just your family, or other
yeah,
a bunch of people went?
I remember Maud's father and mother going. I can't remember Ann. I don't think she was born. It's right many years between her and Maud. I don't remember but I do remember all her. And of course, a big thing was going to Tolchester. That was.
What was there?
Oh yeah, well, merry-go-rounds and oh heck, the things.
Like a roller coaster?
Yeah, not like they have today.
Right, but it's an exciting one,
yeah,
nonetheless.
And
there was a beach there. It was for
yes,
swimming. And
I didn't go in the water, but the ones who came from Baltimore on the big boats, you know, they went in the water, and there was always a lot of music there. I'm trying to think what other games we played. Oh, honey, it's been so long. But we had when you went over there, you went for the day, and we had a wonderful.
Did you
time.
go by boat?
No, we went.
Drove
in the
to
car.
Tolchester.
But they had a big boat come down from Baltimore that would be filled with people from Baltimore.
Was that like a day trip for them? They would come over on the boat, spend the day, and then go back.
And for us too, because it took a long time in those days
to drive.
To drive over there.
It still feels like it takes a long time to drive to Tolchester.
Yeah.
That's quite a way away when you get those back roads.
It was really an event, you know.
A bit. So you would do that perhaps once or twice a summer?
That's right.
That was a big...
And that's all.
Right.
Usually in July.
Perhaps 4th of July, around then. Around then.
Yeah.
So they had music, like dancing?
Yes.
Bands and that kind of thing there?
Yeah, it was just wonderful. I loved it. And then they, on the ferry boat, I had I can't remember what they call it, a midnight ride or what they call it, but you could go across and back, and they had a band on there, and you could dance on the...
oh, that sounds neat.
It was great.
Yeah.
You just went across the bay and back, and then sometimes ride around a little bit out in the bay. I can't remember. It's like maybe a 2-hour evening, and they'd have good music, and you could dance. And
was that when you were a teenager, when you were older? And so you graduated in 1937, and did you start work?
Yes.
And what kind of work did you do?
Oh my gosh! In the beginning, at the old high school, they had it was through the government. I can't remember what they called it, but we worked preparing meals for the children in the school. Maud Webster was working there too, and I can't remember what they called it, but it was a government program. And I worked in that.
That was right after you got out of school?
Yeah. And of course, it was all this time I was still playing in the church. I played in the church 40 years.
How old were you when you got married and started a family?
20.
20.
And then I worked, well, weekends I worked on the ferry boats in the food.
Like the concession stand?
Yeah,
and this was before you got married, Ms. Eva?
No,
that was
after.
That was
after I was married. And I also did substitute teaching for several years. And then later I taught piano. I taught piano for 20 years. And because I kept teaching myself, I kept on playing.
Sure.
I could only take them a certain distance, and they knew that. They came to me and wanted, asked me, would I teach them.
How many students do you think you taught over the years?
Oh my gosh. Maybe 40.
Wow.
But that's over, a lot of years.
But that's a lot of children that got their start.
I loved them. And I tell you, it thrills me because, and Stevens can play beautiful.
I didn't know that.
And I taught her. And so can, Gilmore's daughter. She's so pretty. Gilmore Thomas's daughter.
Oh, I do know who you mean.
Her husband, let me tell you, she saw me not long ago, and her husband has bought her baby grand. Oh, she could play beautifully. Every one of them that I taught, honest to the good Lord, they just had it in them. I tried to think. Of course, Patsy Lee.
Uh-huh.
I taught her, and I taught Mary's daughters, Mary Jane and Polly. They just play for themselves, play alone. And I taught the Benton girls, Bertie and her sister played for the Baptist church down here until Leslie died, and then she remarried and moved away.
Oh, no kidding.
She played for this church, and it made me so proud.
I understand.
Because really, I didn't know anything. You know what I mean? And no formal training,
right?
Or anything like that. After Miss Annie, this isn't going on that, is it?
I can stop this.
Oh.
Why?
I don't know about that.
Okay.
Because I don't want to sound like I'm blowing my horn.
No, ma'am, not at all. It doesn't to me at all, and it doesn't. I don't see that. So.
Because I don't want.
I understand. In fact, what we'll do is after when we finish up, when I
Beverly Price at John T's too, and Chip also, but Chip. He didn't want to play piano. He wanted to play, a wind instrument.
Right.
And I couldn't do much of that. So he didn't come very long for piano. It's funny, I can't, and I wouldn't want to hurt any of them. I just can't.
Sure. Well, that's a lot of children to have gotten a start in music.
Yeah, and that's all I could do was just really start.
Get them.
I know from. Oh gosh, the one who married the Norris, Tommy Norris.
Okay.
His wife.
Uh-huh.
I taught her.
That's another one.
Yeah.
So people typically came to you and said, "Our daughter's interested or our son's interested in learning to play piano. Would you?
Would you please help them?" I made it clear to them what I knew.
Yes, ma'am.
I didn't try to
try to fool anybody.
No, I couldn't compete with the.
But it must have been inspiring to those kids, particularly the ones who went on and followed up.
Oh, I'm so proud of them.
I understand.
Oh, they play beautifully.
Yeah.
So many of them do.
Now, sorry, go ahead.
No,
we were just, we touched a little bit on when you got married. Who was your husband?
Norman Council.
Norman Council, first husband. And you had children.
Kenny and Dada Lee.
And when were they born?
Golly. Let me see. Kenny was born July of '94. No. Wait a minute. No, July of '91. We got married in '40, and he was married. He was born first year we were married. So that's 41. I can't even think. And Dada Lee was born in '42. And I thought I was going to be pregnant the rest of my life. You better cut that out.
That's a juicy tidbit. We'll leave that now to you then.
Oh, I don't
Now, your sons, you mentioned when I first came to see you today that one of your sons has moved away.
Yeah, Rick.
Rick lives in?
Manassas, Virginia.
Manassas, Virginia.
And he was, dear God, when was Rick born?
When was Rick born?
In 1953.
1953. And what was it like raising a family here on Kent Island?
Oh, I just had a good time.
Did ya?
Yeah, and I used to have, all the class parties were here.
All the class parties, all your kids' parties were here.
Mm-hmm. You know, the ones that went to school with and things like that. And we had a wonderful time. We played. They loved to play volleyball. We had a volleyball net, and had a ping pong table down the basement, and I had a pool table.
Active boys, huh?
Oh my golly, yeah, and all their friends.
Always something going on.
All the time.
Oh, that's nice.
All the time. And Rick was really into music. I got him an accordion. And Kenny and Dan Lee both took piano lessons, and Kenny was very good with piano. Dan Lee was, but she just wasn't that interested. But, you know, and then Kenny, when girls came on the scene, heck with music. But Rick's always been, he had a beautiful voice. And Dan Lee had a good voice too. She sang on the television, she and Clifford. When they were little, this is what's so funny, we'll never get over them getting married. Because they, you know, took them to, not television. Yeah, I guess it was television. Well, anyhow, I had to take them to Baltimore. And they sang.
They sang together.
Yeah, when they were little. Yes, indeed. And I gave them, we had one picture taken of them together, and I had it enlarged like this, you know, gave it to them.
Oh, that's neat.
Oh, gosh. It's so cute. They were both, well, I guess he was like 7 and she was 5 or something. And they really could sing nice together.
That had to have been precious.
Yeah, it was. We had such a good time. We always... And horseshoes, they love to play horseshoes. The boys, you know, especially.
And all their friends.
I'll tell you, if this house could talk.
Is that right? A lot of activity.
All the time. It was always bursting at the seams. Always. And
that makes for an enjoyable life.
Oh, that's what life is all about.
You know?
That's what life is all about.
What, big events in your life, not personal events necessarily, but what are the things that really made an impact on you in life? The big events, World War II, or do you remember much about that?
Well, yes, I wrote to all the boys that I knew around here that had could get their address. I wrote to them black and white. I wrote to Ned King, used to tickle him dead, and he sent me, I'll never forget it, one Christmas. Ned's gone now, but he sent me a Bible from somewhere in Europe that he had gotten, a Gideon Bible that he had gotten at a hotel. It sent to me for a Christmas present.
Oh, that's sweet. That. Isn't that neat? So you wrote all the GIs from the area, from here, from Canal.
All the addresses that I had, I did.
Wow.
Yeah, George and Newman and Thomas, Ringo, and well, as many as I.
Sure.
You know, as I had their addresses. Yes, because I loved them all.
I'm sure they appreciated it.
Oh my gosh.
It means a lot, those letters from home.
I'll tell you. And Calvert Jones, Calvert Jr., I'll never forget him. I wrote to him and he said, Eva, I couldn't wait to get your letters because they had 7 subjects in one sentence because I write like I talk.
That's good.
That's what he told me. 7 subjects in one sentence.
That's a good way to put it. I like that.
Oh, shucks.
What do you remember as the greatest things to have happened in your life that you've seen? Not personal necessarily, but in the world.
You don't mean, you don't mean things like the children and stuff like that.
No, ma'am, in the world.
Well, traveling.
Traveling.
I went to, one of the highlights of my life was playing the organ in the, in London, where Methodism began.
Is that Westminster Abbey or?
Oh, no.
No.
It's smaller than that.
Small.
Mr. Phillips got permission. Everywhere I've traveled in the world. I have either played the piano or an organ.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, that's unique.
It was a thrill of my life.
Absolutely.
And listen, first along when I was traveling, only thing I knew by heart was St. Louis blues. So Mr. Phillips said, Eva, I'm going to get you a hymnal. So the next trip we do, I thought about photocopying music. So I photocopied about 4 hymns and took with me, and he was so proud of me. Because everywhere I went, I played St. Louis blues. It was the craziest thing. I never could play anything by heart, except that's the only thing I played with
that's
music.
funny.
It was when he told me that he was going to get me a hymnal. Oh, it was funny. I'm trying to think. I played "This Is My Father's World" in the oh dear Lord, one of the most famous. Oh, how can I forget that? The name of it. In England, I was so excited. With your boots. Oh, it was where. I sound like an idiot.
Not at all.
Do so. I played in Australia.
So did you start traveling early in life or later in life?
A little later.
Later.
Jimmy and I went to Hawaii. We couldn't. Sent the children to college. We couldn't.
Yeah.
We did go out west. We went all over, across the country and back. Did that and did that in 1960 something. When Dan Lee graduated from college. I'll never forget Rick. He was so excited. We went to Florida, and that was a big thing.
Sure.
I had been before, but they had not been. And then we went across the country. We went across the southern route and came back the northern route. So they saw so much of the country.
Right.
It was wonderful.
It's kind of shocking for a Eastern Shore kid to see what a big world it is.
That's exactly right. And I'll tell you something else too was really exciting too. We went to California. Jimmy and I did, and went on the ship that Rick was on.
Oh.
They wouldn't let him fly that day. Any of them whose parents were there, and there were thousands of us on the ship.
Was it a carrier, an aircraft carrier?
Yeah, he was an aircraft carrier pilot.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that?
No, ma'am, I didn't.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's what he was. And then, of course, he's captain. He's captain. And this is my heart.
Yeah, there you go.
That's my heart. Kenny was in the Army. Yeah, he taught school. But she's working for the government now. She works for in Annapolis.
And how old is she? She's younger than the boys?
No, Rick's the youngest.
Rick's the youngest.
Yeah, Kenny is, he'll be 64 this year, and he'll be 63 this year.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I got a shot there of that.
I'll be 85.
And proud of it.
You're darn right.
You should be.
Rick, like I told you, will be 52, so.
Let me ask you about Kent Island. What do you think the biggest changes have been that you've seen to Kent Island in your lifetime?
I guess people.
The growth.
Mm-hmm. But I've enjoyed a lot of them. I mean, I really have a lot of new friends, and and the vehicles, of course.
Right, traffic.
That's
so
really
the people have been a positive. The traffic, maybe not so much.
Exactly right. Exactly. That's the truth.
Do you think that the Bay Bridge was a changing point?
Of course.
For the area?
Positively, yes.
That before it was a different kind of place, and then after made a big difference.
Yeah, that's what did it. I drove across it the first day it opened.
Did you?
Yes.
So that was a big day here locally, I can imagine.
Took the children and Betty Benton and her children, and we went
drove across it.
And back.
Did you? Would you consider that one of the biggest events here locally.
Oh, yes.
It was the opening of that Bay Bridge.
Oh, my goodness, yes. And I forgot to, but entertainment, we used to have wonderful carnivals.
Oh, carnivals.
Yeah.
The firemen's carnivals?
No, back in those days, it was a businessman's carnival.
Oh, right.
Had up Bluff Point.
Uh-huh.
Up there where the old hotel used
Yes,
to
ma'am.
be. And down in front of it, used to have tents and great dances. I've danced up there.
Is that
At
right?
the hotel, yes.
At the hotel, so do you remember
Oh,
the
yeah.
hotel being an active
Oh, yes.
business?
Uh-huh. I was only like 13 and 14, but Mother and Daddy used to take me up there, and I would dance. I'll never forget one thrill. Mr. Jim Cockey asked me to dance because he was one of the great dancers on the island.
Really?
Yeah. And he asked me to dance for him. I made it big time.
Oh, you made it big time.
Yeah, he could waltz, so he waltzed me all over the. Oh, the music was beautiful.
That seems to be a very romanticized vision for particularly those of us who don't know, who never knew it was.
It was beautiful.
It just seems like it was kind of a genteel and.
And everybody was always so dressed up, and the people who came there and stayed seemed just a bit classy.
Right.
You know, and it was just, well, it was just wonderful.
And I guess the changes in the with the Bay Bridge and people going to Ocean City and other places just couldn't sustain that anymore.
No.
Is that correct?
No, they didn't. You know, the boats stopped coming. They didn't.
Right.
See, they used to come. The people would come down there like for weekends, and that's true.
And
for
stay.
Baltimore. Yeah.
It was a nice getaway for them.
Yeah. The hotel was pretty, and it was, you know, well kept, nice inside. Beautiful dance floor, just smooth, you know.
Yeah.
Really great.
Really neat.
Oh yeah.
You still love Ken Island?
Oh, of course I do. Yeah, honestly.
Yeah.
I do. I love it, and I tell you, I remember when I was little, when all the roads were dirt roads. My grandmother had a wagon and a horse, my grandmother Kelly, and she would come down when she was going down to Kerwin's to shop. She would come down and stop and get me, and if I was good, she'd let me drive Charlie the horse. And I was good. I got to always drive Charlie the horse. That was quite an exciting thing too.
That's a nice memory.
Oh, it's wonderful. I was trying to think.
I was going to ask you if there were other things that you'd like to touch on before we wind things up.
Well, you know, we all went to St. Michael's to the boat races.
St. Michael's boat races.
That was a big thing.
Was that when you were a teenager?
Yeah.
Or,
Mm-hmm. Probably sometimes when, and I told you about us going down to Chester Station to wave to all the people.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you know that, let's see. I told you about the teachers.
Yep, on Parsons Island.
Mm-hmm. The boat races. You know everything about the fire company. You know you do. All of them.
Now, did you have some things you wanted to show me?
Well, these are just...
For posterity.
Okay. That was the first electric organ in the Methodist churches on Ken Island.
Is that right?
Yes. And I collected the money, and there it is. Every cent.
I'm just going to go down that real slow here. And that's something. So that's all the donors.
Yes.
Churchill, Chestertown.
I went everywhere.
And Graysonville. You did all the collecting.
Mr. Holland took me, he and Louise. believe it. You better believe it.
And look at you there.
100 years ago.
No.
Oh, dear Lord, honey.
Time flies, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Are just on or off.
I hope so, because what I'd like to do is I'm doing a first round of these. And
great.
I've talked to Melvin Clark. I've talked to you. I got Babe Groman on my schedule.
Oh, great.
I have Wes Thompson on my schedule. I want to talk to Wes. And
But Wes taught me how to shoot a 410.
did he really?
Yeah. Well, see, I down there, but I didn't have any girls that lived close to me. So Newman and George, they taught me how to shoot and taught me how to shoot pool. They really, were really good to me.
That's neat, and it again made you a pretty well-rounded person in those regards.
Yeah, I just...
You took a little bit of their honoriness and...
I tell you, I really, honestly, I really love people.
Right.
I honestly, I always have. I just have. I loved working in the church. I can't do what I once did, but I loved what I did. I taught Sunday school all my life.
So children and just people in general being around mean a lot to you.
Oh yeah, I just love people.
And it sounds like all your life.
Oh, I have.
It's really been like that.
Yes, it has. It's the truth. I just and I think that we can learn so much. We give, but all the time they're giving to us.
Absolutely.
And sometimes we don't realize that.
Yep.
But every age has something to give.
I agree. I think even, I hear a lot of folks who say bad things about younger generation and all that. No.
I don't. I don't. I don't care what generation it is, they're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
We're not made perfect. We have to learn as we go.
What advice would you give a young kid today that asked you, what makes life fulfilling? What can I do in my life that will fulfill me?
Give.
Give.
Give of yourself. And you'll always receive. It's a two-way street. It just is. And of course, be true to the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
Be true to your faith. And it doesn't mean, some people think it makes you narrow. It doesn't. If it does, it's your choice.
Right.
The Bible doesn't make you narrow. I've always loved working in the church. Always have.
Meant a lot to you.
But I've always loved to dance.
Right. That's the other side of the coin.
Yeah. I love a good time. I love to laugh. Somebody called me on the phone the other day, and I forget what she said, and I burst out laughing. She said, "Oh, Eva, that's the best sound I've heard this week." I was charged up. I was trying to think who it was. But it is the truth.
And those relationships with people have meant a lot over the years, I'm sure.
Oh, yes. I can't imagine not having people.
Right. And, I guess we're lucky to have grown up in an area like this where you automatically have those people.
That's the truth.
You don't have to work too hard to get them because everyone already is here for you.
Yeah, that's right.
I often feel sad for people who live in areas where they don't have that support system of the community.
That's the truth. Oh my. I'll never forget. I took, I had the first youth choir on the island. There had not been a youth choir. So that's when Bobby Timms, Reggie Jones, of course, Bunky Severe and Sonny Schultz, Buddy Coleman, and the girls were Pat and Jackie and Eunice and Shirley Legg. I can't remember them all. I can't remember.
Right.
And I'll never forget. And they really were young. They really hadn't been anywhere too much. So I made plans to take them to Collins Park. Honestly, Fred, you would not believe it. Oh, they were so excited. So we went to Collins Park, and I wouldn't. They had we call it. The thing you play on that goes up and down. I was scared to death of it. What do you call that? I can't think.
Not a roller coaster.
Yes.
A roller coaster.
So they all went on it. But so they insisted I go. So I went and I yelled from the time I got on till I got off. They told me they'd never take me on again. I was scared to death.
So all those folks you mentioned were in the youth choir?
Oh yeah.
And they all sang?
I just can't.
Right.
I had about 16. And I can't remember.
I didn't even know some of those particular young men had singing voices.
Oh, yes, indeed. Yes, sir. And Bobby Timms, I just saw him a few weeks ago down Island Inn. He and Dolores were having supper. And they come over. Well, everyone when they see me.
Right.
It makes me feel so good.
It should.
He said, Miss Eva, I never forgot that. And he said, I want your autograph. And he had a book. He had just bought a book. One of the Ken Island books, I guess, that Nick did. And I didn't even know my picture was in it. And he said, Miss Eva, wants you signed right here. So I signed his book. Things like that make you feel good, honey.
And it really does, huh?
Yes.
And to know people care.
Yeah, and remember.
And remember that. Because it means a lot to them in their lives.
It just, I can't tell you how it touches me.
That's nice. Sometimes probably a little overwhelming.
Yes. Because so many times I can't come up with their names.
Right.
You know.
But that's all of us, that's for sure. You know.
I know their faces. And that's the same thing with my tax clients.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had over 300, and I just stopped in 91.
Mm-hmm.
And I see them now. Of course, a lot of them kid me. Nobody's done it right since you stopped. Kidding me. Makes you feel good.
Sure.
And and it's funny, I can't remember their names to save my life. I know their faces.
Right.
And I can look at, when I come home, I can take my book and look down and I'll say, oh, that was so-and-so. Ain't that funny?
That is funny.
But I can't remember when I...
That's how it is, though. As sometimes, like I said, it doesn't really come to you until you stop thinking about it. As soon as you stop thinking about it.
It's the truth.
Ms. Eva, I really appreciate your time today.
Bless your heart.
Thank you very much for... No, it's been very enjoyable. I really appreciate it. And the Heritage Society appreciates it. And hopefully in a few weeks we'll be able to follow up, maybe take another half an hour, 45 minutes, and anything that you had thought of in the meantime.
Yes, I'll find those papers. Oh, my.
Ms. Eva, thank you very much.
Honey, you're so welcome. Would you like a Coke?